I just want to shoot a lot and run and be tired.
If you want to try the sausage, you can, but take your time on it. Nice! Action gun is a great way to do it. Hello TMPers, hello world, this is Nutnfancy running the Nutnfancy project, or TMP for short, in YouTube as of 2010. Thank you for clicking on the video, taking the time to watch it. It is going to be another Nutnfancy life philosophy video. And that's all it is, man. It's my philosophy applied to a certain subject. In this case, it's going to be children and firearms safety and proficiency. I'm going to call it Children of the Gun. What, Nutnfancy? That's a crazy title. You know, maybe it's controversial, thought-provoking, perhaps intriguing. It serves a purpose, though. And that purpose is to advocate that you, the firearms owner, go above and beyond just mere safety instruction for your child. Okay? And in doing so, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to depart from conventional wisdom, which I think is sometimes founded upon faulty logic, and I will happily depart from political correctness, which in this case, when you talk about firearms and children, can actually lead to accidental deaths. It's dangerous. PC is. Okay? It's a hard subject to address, and I'll be honest, I tried about 100 takes yesterday trying to film this video, unsuccessfully. In one segment, I went an hour and a half long. I took it into post-production. I looked at it. I just wasn't happy. I went back to the drawing board. I did some soul searching. Why am I not finding my voice in this subject? And I'm not talking about, the talking voice. I'm not talking about this, the heart, that which enables me to speak here in TMP. And that's where it comes from. I always speak extemporaneously, and I need a certain mood, a certain spirit in order to address a subject, just like this one. Back to the drawing board I went, and it dawned on me. It's like, well, because, you're concentrating too much on gun safety. And that's not what you do in the Nutnfancy family. You go beyond that. Okay? And that's what I want to talk about in this video. Going beyond that foundation of gun safety for your kids. That turns them into not just, safe around guns, but it turns them into competent operators of the firearm. Imagine that. Maybe that's original thinking. Maybe it's not. But I don't hear it from a lot of places, and I think this video, Children of the Gun, will fill an informational void that's out there. Again, departing from conventional wisdom at times, definitely PC. And in my thoughts and in the techniques that I lay out before you, my categories, my approach to training kids and guns, maybe it'll work for you, maybe it won't. That is up to you to decide. You're the ultimate judge on your own safety, on your own accountability within your own family. Maybe you're a set of parents, a wife, a husband, maybe you're just a single dad, a single mom, maybe you're a guardian of kids. All of this can apply to you if you've chosen to integrate this into your house as part of your personal protection plan. Not necessarily the Ruger SP101, previously reviewed in the Nutnfancy project. Awesome gun, by the way. But any handgun, any shotgun, any long arm, maybe it's a Glock 27, Glock 26. You've opted to bring a firearm into your domicile. And you have kids. the protectionists, as I call them, will tell you that that is a dangerous combination. How dare you bring a gun into a house where there's children? You threaten the lives of those children by bringing the gun in there. Okay? I don't have a lot of time to address these political issues. That's one thing I did yesterday. The video ran too long. Let me just say that those are lies. Okay? Thousands of times a year, a firearm is used to protect good people in the United States of America. Perhaps someone who is a protectionist finds this video. I know that will happen. And they'll go, you know what? I don't know who you are, Nutnfancy. I absolutely disagree with you. It's very, very rare that a gun is ever needed in any house. Oh, really? Perhaps I will tell you, that individual who's saying that, to go read The Armed Citizen, found in every National Rifle Association publication every month. It's a column that's been running for years and years. There's an annotation where you can search its archives as well. And you will see in this column thousands of examples of good, responsible civilian people, civilian sheepdogs as I sometimes call them, defending their lives, their property, with firearms. Many times never even having fired a shot. Another good magazine that does it, Concealed Carry Magazine. A buddy of mine just turned me on to this. There you go. True Stories. Has the same thing. Okay? Go read those. And then after reading those, tell me that it doesn't happen. You don't hear about it in the mainstream media. They don't want you to hear about it because many of those media sources subscribe to the protectionist agenda, which is ultimately to disarm you of something they perceive as being dangerous to you. Speaking of dangerous, there is a reference video that I want to refer you to that you probably should watch before going on with this video. And it is my Dangerous Things video, another Nutnfancy Life Philosophy video, posted in July 2009. You'll see it in annotation. Please go watch that. Because in that video, I talk about dangerous things, some of which are firearms, draw many examples, and I address this whole way of thinking, which I won't have time to do here. Dangerous things. In there, I said that sometimes things like firearms, when they're used by competent, good, responsible, and accountable people, they increase public safety, and in this case, personal safety within the walls of your own home. And again, I'm going to give you congratulations for making that decision to increase your personal safety. Good job. Okay, Mom, Dad, congratulations again for getting that gun. But before you launch down the road of training your child to be safe and proficient with its use, there's a couple things I would like you to consider. I'm going to call them tenets of training. Foundational principles which may help you along the path. First and foremost, ignore conventional wisdom and political correctness. I think they're just going to get in the way, and in the end, they could actually harm your child. What am I talking about? Well, things like this. The protectionists, which are advocates of the political correctness, will tell you that if you truly love your child, that you wouldn't have a gun in the house in the first place. That statistically speaking, it's much more likely to harm them or you than any bad guy. Okay, again, there's a bunch of statistical manipulation and lies that are taking place to reach this conclusion, and it's absolutely false. Again, refer to all the body of evidence that's there. Lots and lots. And a child who's trained to be proficient and competent in the use of a firearm can actually save your life. And that too has happened, contrary to political correctness. Okay, that's just a minor aside. But there's a lot more lies that come out of the protectionists when it comes to children and firearm safety. There's whole websites dedicated to it. Here's another one, and I want you to really consider this one. And that is the only way to make your child safe if you have been dumb enough to put a gun in your house, that's what they say in so many words, is to lock it up away from them, never exposing them to that gun at all. In fact, we would really like it if you lock the ammunition up separate from the gun. Oh, and by the way, we'd kind of like to pass some laws along those lines and make it so we can kind of come in and inspect to make sure you're doing it. Oh yeah, and we're going to hold you criminally liable if you don't. Okay, and it just gets worse from there, Don't do that. Don't support laws that do that. It doesn't create any safer environment for your children. And the whole agenda is designed to disarm you. It's not about the safety of your children. Again, I'm getting sidetracked. But what it's going to lead to is enabling the government regulators, because a firearms accident will happen even after they've enacted these draconian measures. And just like in other countries like the UK, they're going to say, you know what, we haven't gone far enough. Now we need to store the ammunition in the police station. Oops, another gun tragedy. Now we need to store the gun in the police station. Oh, another gun tragedy. Now we need to take the guns away. Okay, that's the way it goes. Protectionists, they don't really care about your safety. They care about disarmament. Enough said. But there is another thing I want to mention when we talk about locking the gun up, and this is very important. They say that's the only way to make your child safe. Okay, and there's a lot within the gun community that actually buy off on this. They say you need to lock your gun up. You know, every gun nowadays in the United States of America comes with a trigger lock. Granted, it's because of legal problems, but yeah, that's there. Don't buy off on this lie. It is a lie. Don't do it. If you buy your gun, you don't train little Billy in the use of that gun, and you think the best way to protect him is to lock it up, you know, under lock and key, and you call your gun safety program complete, dude, you are setting yourself up for failure. You're setting Billy up for failure. Okay, it's not the mechanical device, and that's a key concept of my video here, Children of the Gun. It's not the mechanical device that's going to ensure your safety, your child's safety. It's going to be training. It's going to be practice. It's going to be exposure under controlled and responsible conditions that will achieve that. First off, it's a mechanical device. They can fail. Second off, if you're a parent, you probably already know this, your kids are pretty crafty. They can probably figure out the combination to that lock. They can figure out where the key is, and then when you're out of the house, they're going to access it. Happens. You know, number 3, what if they go to another venue? You know, a neighbor's house, and they have a gun that's unsecured and loaded, surrounded by incompetent people that are inexperienced in the use of firearms. That is a dangerous situation. Okay, now your kid's there, and you haven't trained him because you thought he always had the gun locked up. See where I'm going? Don't depend on the lockbox. Yes, it can be an integral part of your multi-layer approach to gun safety within your home. It is not the only approach. Okay, another protectionist lie. When we're talking about tenets of training, they'll say, you know what, by training your children in guns, you're creating a violent culture and you're teaching them to be violent. Okay, another lie from the protectionists. Why? Because you have a value system. Let's get back to the Nutnfancy family. In this case, I don't mind putting the microscope on us because it serves a good purpose. We have a very defined value system. We know good, we know bad. We train our children in that. They know what the consequences of using this firearm are because they've been trained in every stage of the process of what it can do and what its capabilities are. The item does not corrupt, just like I said in Dangerous Things. Okay, the value system governs that item, whether it's an automobile, whether it's a knife, you know, whether it's a AR-15, whether it's an SP-101. Doesn't matter. It's a value system that governs that. Hopefully you have a value system, and no, I'm not going to say my value system is good for you, but you should have one in place, and it governs these things. Okay, and your child will see your value system and learn from it. Remember, our goal too isn't just safety. It's competence. It's confidence in the operation of the firearm. Children of the Gun, that's why I entitled it that we're not just getting to a safe level, like I mentioned with that example, little Billy in the automobile. We don't want him just not to cross in front of the car. That's a good thing, obviously, but when he comes of age, when he's legally capable, when he's mature enough, we want him to become a safe operator of the automobile. Imagine that. Okay, we're going above and beyond the safety aspect of this training. Okay, the safety is foundational and integral to this process, but it's not the end goal. Do you understand? That is a departure from conventional wisdom. We're going above and beyond. And it's up to you, by the way, to determine how far you want to take that. I'm going to introduce several categories of training to you. You determine where you want your children to go. And when they get old enough, guess what? They're going to determine it as well. Excuse me. They may or may not, want to go very far. Maybe guns aren't their thing. Some kids you just can't change. You can train them to a certain level, which I'll mention. After that, they may just not be interested. But at least you have the foundation of safety there. It will serve them throughout life. Another thing, tenet of training, and that is your example of gun safety. How safe are you? They're going to see, they're going to watch. And if you're saying, hey, don't muzzle anybody, and they see you muzzling people, what does that tell them? Occasionally, folks will contact me, TMPers, supporters of the Nutnfancy Project, and they'll say, hey, I don't come from a gun family, I don't have a gun heritage, I have bought one, we're integrating it into our family, I don't have a lot of experience. Where do I start? Well, if we're talking about gun safety, consistent gun handling that is safe, it's not rocket science. You can learn that from the manual that came with your gun. Pretty much every manual I've ever seen that comes with a handgun, a rifle, a shotgun has all those safety rules listed. Memorize them. Burn them into your memory banks and make them integral to how you handle that firearm. And just be consistent with it. Have someone who's a trusted associate go with you and make sure you're doing it correctly. It could be a friend. You know, if you're a single mom, have one of your girlfriends go out with you. And when you're shooting, they can say, hey, you're doing pretty good. Or actually, I saw you muzzle me because you were thinking of something else. And they'll call you on it. You need that feedback because then you can improve. Then you can go, okay. And it happens, you know. Very few people are perfect in safe gun handling. I know because I shoot with lots of people and I see lots of mistakes. And yes, as you've seen on camera, I call them on it. Once you get to that level, then you're ready to train your children. Okay, and they're going to watch your example. And if every time you pick up a gun, let's say it's a semi-automatic pistol like this, and one of our rules in the Nutnfancy family, you pick it up, you treat it always like it's loaded, but just to make sure, we're always going to check its condition. We're going to do a visual and a feel check on it too, to make sure it's indeed unloaded. And if dad or mom doesn't do that when they pick up the gun, and yet we're instructing it, we're being hypocrites. Okay. Here's another thing. Tenets of training. What type of parent are you, and what kind of household do you have already? Do you run a helter-skelter household where things are just crazy all the time, and the kids have no limitations, they have no accountability in their behavior? If you're like that, you're going to have an uphill battle when you introduce this and suddenly throw down some limitations. Hey, this is a new thing in our family, and this is the limitations for it. It's kind of a disconnect for the children because you haven't done that before with anything else. They can stay up as late as they want. They can play video games as much as they want. They can go out, watch any movies they want. They can hang out whatever. They can drink. They can do this, carouse. I'm making an extreme example, but there are families like this. Okay, there's no accountability, and then suddenly you bring a gun in and you expect accountability. It's inconsistent parenting. And I don't see how you can truly address the gun safety issue unless you address your parenting style. Okay, in the Nutnfancy family, we have limitations. There are standards of behavior that are set. Okay, there's consequences if they're not followed. There's punishments. There's also rewards. Imagine that. Just like society. Society's the same way. Your job as a parent is to prepare your child for society, to be a functioning and productive contributing member of society. The way we do that is consistent application of standards of behavior, limitations, if you will. Teach the consequences if they're, disobeyed. There should be consequences for things that are understood and then not followed through with. It's good parenting. You're going to bring a firearm into that house. It's serious stuff. If you misuse it, problems can happen, and it may drive right back to your parenting style. Understand this, another tenet of training. I'm trying to go through these as quick as I can. It takes time and commitment from you in order to reach your kids to the highest level of training. It can't be just 1 or 2 exposures to the gun, to your firearm of choice, and expect them to get it all. There's going to be multiple exposures, maybe within your living room where you're having opportunities for them to handle it whenever they want. Talk about that. Multiple shooting adventures. That's what develops proficiency. Just like driving. You don't throw a 16-year-old in an automobile and expect them to automatically be a good driver. It takes practice. They have a learner's permit, and they practice with that, with a responsible adult who supervises them. They make their mistakes, they improve, they make mistakes, they improve. What do you know? They make fewer mistakes. Next thing you know, they're good drivers. Went through that process with my son, Tactical Doodle, who incidentally will be a model as I go through these processes because he's older now. He's gone through all of them, and I can reference his stage. Also, my other son, Last Suspect, going through the process of what we're going to talk about. Okay? If you're not willing to put in the time and effort to train your children in the safe and competent operation of the firearm, you might want to consider not having it. What? Well, I told you I was going to depart from conventional wisdom in this case. Yeah, seriously. I think you're setting up your child for failure if you don't train them. If a gun is part of your life, you need to train them. You can't just lock it up and call it good. The protectionist lockup, approach to gun safety is a cop-out. Put the time in, get them to that level. And by the way, while you're doing it, try to make it fun. If you're going out and railing on them and losing your temper when they do make mistakes and making it unfun for your daughter, for your son, they're going to equate firearms with misery in family conflict, and they won't want to have any part of it. And I highly recommend you regroup, recompose yourself, be a good dad, be a good mom, and make it fun for them. And you can do that easily with a lot of different situations. I don't know, reference my Red Ryder BB gun review, because there we're doing it, modeling that for you. A good shooting adventure, which, by the way, is instructing safe gun handling and the principles of marksmanship in that one. Tenet of training, pressing on. Some people say, well, when do I start this? What age can I do it? It just depends on the child, and everyone's different. Generally I'll say around age 2. What, age 2? Absolutely. That's what we've done in my family. My immediate family, my boys at age 2 started getting their gun instruction to become safe around guns. Not necessarily competence in operation. That takes, an older child, more mature level, and actually more dexterity as well. Let me give you a story if you don't believe this. A friend of mine in my military unit, okay, his boys race motocross motorcycles on a national competitive level. They're good riders. I mean, these guys rock and roll. When did he start teaching those boys to ride? Any guesses? Age 3. He put them on a motorcycle that was sized to them, and he started doing what I'm saying, teaching them about consequences of misuse of that dangerous thing. Letting the boys go for it, man. Of course they made mistakes. Of course they wrecked. Of course they wore protective gear. They got better. They're in a safe environment, and little by little they became good. And then they got bigger motorcycles. They gained confidence and competence, those two very important words, and now they're racing competitively nationwide. Awesome. Age 3, you bet. You will find as you go through this whole progression of firearms training for your child, another important tenet of training is that they will have a sense of confidence, again, and a sense of accomplishment that will translate into other things. Because they're safe with the firearm, maybe they can very easily translate that into safety with automobiles, with motorcycles, with bicycles, and all sorts of things. And they will feel good that mom and dad trust them with this thing. Okay, and they have a level of, accomplishment in their heart. And it goes into every aspect of their life. Again, mistakes are going to happen. Be patient. Be a good instructor. And you'll find within yourself also a sense of accomplishment that you achieve something with your child. And it's a gift for life. Okay, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandparent, guardian, whoever you are undertaking the all-important task of training your child to be safe and competent in the use of firearms, those are my tenets of training. Not all-inclusive, nor am I going to say they're absolutely correct and you can't add or take away from them. They're just things that I've learned in my experience, and also coming from a gun family from my own dad. Let's get on to the actual categories of training for your kids. I got 4 of them. 4 categories. Levels of progression in competency and trust. First up, this is hilarious. I love this name. I just came up with them. I'm not copying anybody. The zygote level. The zygote level. Happens around ages 2 to 5. These are just ballpark ages. Could happen a little, not earlier. 2 is pretty young, but maybe a little bit later. I don't know. But this is when the kid doesn't know anything about guns. Okay, a lot of accidents happen at the zygote level because they don't know anything else. Because a lot of parents, including the protectionists, feel like that kids are not able to be taught at this level. Absolutely false. This is where the safety foundation is established, at the zygote level. That you teach them what a firearm is. You spend some time with them. You tell them, and actually if you can in a shooting outing, show them what happens. This is a pistol. A bullet comes out the barrel. That bullet can impact something and blow it up. Maybe use a milk jug, and they can see that explosive effect, and they can hear the report of the gun. They can see the blast. Kids are not dumb, okay? If you did that one thing, that you just showed your child, even at ages 2 to 5, again, ballpark ages, at the zygote level, we'll call it, what a gun can do, that in itself could prevent a lot of tragedies. Because now they know, well, that's a firearm. It's a real gun. And this is how I determine a real gun. You know, the reason the curiosity killed the cat is because the cat didn't know the thing was deadly. Okay, teach your child the safety foundation. It's not too early to start either. But before I do that with my kids, and before I did it with my kids, I'm teaching them the nomenclature. The real names for everything on the gun. Let's say you do have a revolver. Then I would teach my son or daughter, that's the barrel, muzzle, front sight, rear sight, hammer, cylinder, trigger, grip, cylinder release right here. All the proper names for everything, and have them repeat them. Say barrel, barrel, say barrel, barrel. They'll get it right. The reason you have to do that is because you want to have a correct and proper foundation. If it's a semi-automatic pistol, start training it. Okay, the nomenclature. You know, this is a magazine. It holds bullets. You know, teach them how the bullets are fed in. This is a slide, front sight. Teach them what a chamber is, that's where the round goes in. Okay, the trigger. Teach them that in a Glock pistol, for instance, it doesn't have a separate safety. Talk about all that. You'll be amazed that even at the zygote level, they can understand it. No, it won't happen immediately. It's going to take multiple exposures. Look for opportunities to do that. Maybe 20 minutes at a time. They have a short attention span. Hey, let's go talk about the gun. And allow unlimited gun handling in your presence or the presence of the primary instructor all the time. Again, departing from conventional wisdom. In my family, the Nutnfancy family, tactical duel, as a little boy says, Daddy, I want to hold the gun. Immediately I stop doing what I'm doing. Roger that. Let's go get it. I would go get a gun. I would safety check it, make sure it's empty, and then we launch into what I'm talking about here. I go over the nomenclature, and then that dovetails immediately into the basics of safe firearm handling. Okay? Treat every gun as if it's loaded. Okay? Don't aim at anything you do not want to destroy. Keep your finger out of the trigger guard until you're ready to fire the gun. Always check the condition of your gun and still treat it like it's loaded. I'm talking about what's its loaded status. That's something we do in the Nutnfancy family. Be sure of your backdrop. Okay? Don't muzzle anybody. Always point it in a safe direction. And I really, really stress that one. Okay? That happens at the zygote level. And yes, they can start to absorb it. You repeat it over and over again, and you'll be amazed that kids learn how to do it, just like they learned about the electrical outlet in your house. Don't stick your finger in the electrical outlet. Bad things happen. Okay? Defuse that taboo, though. Don't make your gun a taboo. If you put it, in a lockbox and you put it up away from them, they're like, oh, don't let little Billy see it. You've just created a taboo. You've aroused their curiosity. A gun in your family should be just like a lawnmower, just like a bicycle, or anything that's potentially dangerous that has to have certain rules to operate safely. Nothing wrong with that. During this zygote phase, though, I actually reinforced the bug out concept. NRA has an Eddie Eagle safety program, and what it tells kids is that if you encounter a gun, stop, don't touch, leave the area, tell an adult. I jump on that as too. I tell my kids that too. Even though they're learning safe gun handling, I don't want them to John Wayne an encounter with a firearm. I want them to get the heck out of there. Leave the area. In the zygote phase and in the next phase, that's what I tell kids. Actually, any phase. Get out of there. You don't know what the level is of the kids that have that gun. I don't say just leave. I tell them to run. Run away, man. Get out of there. It can be very, very bad. Kids every year, even ones that are trained in firearms handling, become a victim by someone who is not. Maybe it's their friend. They don't know what a gun can do. They were never taught. They point the gun. They're playing guns. They pull the trigger. Bam. Kid's dead. Lots of repetition is needed for this. Like I said, unlimited supervised handling. I already mentioned that. How about toy gun practice or playing toy guns? Here we go again with the protectionist. The protectionist will say, don't play toy guns. That teaches a violence culture. And also you create a confusion within your child. They won't know a toy gun or a real gun. That's what the protectionists say. And it's a bunch of garbage. Okay? In the zygote phase, I'm teaching my child, hey, this is a real gun. This is how you can tell a real gun. Once upon a time, you could tell it just by weight, but now airsoft guns are weighted just like the real guns, so you got to go a little bit deeper in that. I'll show them the specifics of muzzle. A toy gun that does not shoot a projectile can actually teach a lot of good things. Maybe later you want to advance to a tactical level. Nothing wrong with that. Reference my Minuteman Prerogative video. the foundation of that is playing toy guns. There's nothing wrong with that. You can teach a lot right there. You can teach a lot of gun safety with toy guns. And then you'll advance to perhaps projectile firing guns, BB guns, maybe airsoft guns. Remember, it's that safer environment where mistakes are less costly. In the zygote phase, I know it's a funny name. In the zygote phase, I pretty much let them just shoot air guns. And then I get their confidence built up with that. Okay, and once they get better, then I'll progress to other things. It is also in the zygote phase, I know, funny name, that for the first time formally, I introduce my child to the gun heritage of our family. And that's what it is. It's a heritage. It's part of how we do business. It's one of the many things we're interested in. No, we're not all about guns and firearms. In fact, we're very diversified in the Nutnfancy family. Perhaps you've picked up on that watching the videos. We do outdoor adventures. We go hiking. We go backpacking. We go boating. We play baseball. We throw frisbee. We fly kites. We play football. We go bicycling. Also part of the heritage of the family, but so is the gun. When you do that, you go a long way to again defuse the taboo with the child of the gun. Okay, another way perhaps to say this is you demystify the gun. Because it's a norm, it's a way of life in your family. And they're just like, it is just like, I don't know, any other utensil in the kitchen. It's just, I don't know, that's just what we do. You'll be amazed if you approach gun ownership and gun safety that way, even in this young age, in the zygote phase. They're going to catch on, and they're going to go, oh, okay, yeah, whoop-de-doo, we have guns, yeah. Doesn't everybody? And they will be shocked to learn that no, everybody does not have guns, and they'll be even more shocked to learn that people are fearful of guns and that they think that they cannot coexist safely and peaceably with firearms. I'm talking children. The gun heritage is trained in the zygote phase. It is continued through all the subsequent phases and strengthened. Primarily through those shooting adventures you're going to engage with your child. But if it's not a shooting adventure, maybe it's just a gun handling session within the walls of your own home in a safe manner, reinforcing the nomenclature and the safe gun handling principles that you're going to educate them with. That is a zygote phase. I'm not really looking for proficiency in gun shooting in the zygote phase. In fact, not at all. What I'm looking to do is establish a foundation of safety that can save that child's life. I'm looking to establish an understanding in that child about what a gun, a firearm can do, and that it can be deadly, it can take a human life. That is a very important and sobering message I need to establish, yes, perhaps even at age 2. That will go a long ways, like I said earlier, to saving your child's life, perhaps in certain situations. I'm looking to establish the rules of gun handling safety there. I am definitely not looking for perfection or perhaps even any level of competency in them in the zygote phase. I'm just not. They're little kids. You know, they have to understand the destructive capabilities of a firearm that has to be handled safely. And there again, as a parent, as a guardian, I'm establishing norms of behavior, standards of behavior, or limitations on how that gun is going to be handled. And incidentally, they do not have any access to guns, obviously, without the primary family firearms instructor, that is me and our family, being present. They just don't. I mean, mom could do it too, but she just gives the role to me because she's like, oh, that's your job, you do that. Fine. And they have unrestrained access, but only when, in our case, in our family, when dad is around. Okay, in the zygote phase. If you do a good job.
I have a folder for today. So nice hits. Those hits out for Mrs. Nutnfancy. Mrs. Nutnfancy, 15 yards, Ruger 2245 out of run and gun. Nice. Well on that guy, go. Oh, dude. Next target. Long target, long target. Breathing control, breathing control. Take your time, take your time.